Let's do a self-exploration meditation on time queries timelessness. For this self-inquiry, you will need some fruit. Keeping the fruit in front on a table, settle down. Sit comfortably and relax. Keep the eyes of the waker open to begin this self-inquiry. Look around at the room. The furniture, the walls. Whatever is seen is in front of the eyes. Notice that in every blink of the eye, the room rises and into the next blink it dissolves. The room is seen. The background of awareness is the unseen. The seen is consciousness in motion. The unseen is consciousness at rest. From the unseen consciousness at rest arises the visible consciousness in motion. Into the unseen consciousness at rest dissolves the visible consciousness in motion. Now take your attention to the sound of these words. Notice that there is a gap from which the sound arises, and into the next gap the sound dissolves. From soundless consciousness at rest arises the audible consciousness in motion. Into the soundless consciousness at rest dissolves the audible consciousness in motion. Now, touch the fruit sitting in front of you. Texture is consciousness in motion. Consciousness at rest has the quality of touch blindness. Notice that there is a gap from which the texture rises, and into the next gap, the texture dissolves. That is the reason why you are tempted to move the hand on the fruit. From the touch blind consciousness at rest arises the tangible consciousness in motion. Into the touch blind consciousness at rest dissolves the tangible consciousness in motion. Smell the fruit sitting in front of you. Notice that there is a gap from which the odor arises. And into the next gap, the odor vanishes. The smellable is consciousness in motion. Odorlessness is consciousness at rest. From odorless consciousness at rest arises the smellable consciousness in motion. Into the odorless consciousness at rest dissolves the smellable consciousness in motion. Now take a bite of the fruit. Taste the fruit. Notice that there is a gap from which the flavor arises. And into the next gap, the flavor dissolves. The tastable is consciousness in motion. Taste blindness is consciousness at rest. From the taste blind consciousness at rest arises the tastable consciousness in motion. Into the taste blind consciousness at rest dissolves the tastable consciousness in motion. The seeable, hearable, smellable, tasteable, and touchable are all consciousness in motion. The unseen, the soundless, the odorless, the touch blind, and the taste blind is consciousness at rest. The waking world is consciousness in motion. It rises from and dissolves back into the background of consciousness at rest. Allow the eyes of the waker to close. Take your attention to any feelings that arise. Feeling is consciousness in motion. The background of dispassion on which it is playing is consciousness at rest. Notice that there is a gap from which the feeling rises and into the next gap the feeling dissolves. From dispassionate consciousness at rest arises the feelable consciousness in motion. Into the dispassionate consciousness at rest dissolves the feelable consciousness in motion. Observe your thoughts. Notice any thought, maybe a thought that repeats these words. Notice that there is a gap from which the thought arises and into the next gap the thought dissolves. Thought is consciousness in motion. Thoughtlessness is consciousness at rest. From thought-free consciousness at rest arises the thought consciousness in motion. Into the thoughtless consciousness at rest dissolves the thought consciousness in motion. Isn't everything simply consciousness in motion, appearing and disappearing on the background of consciousness at rest? Do you recognize that there is time only when there is consciousness in motion? Do you recognize that there is timelessness when there is consciousness at rest? Is there a recognition that the consciousness at rest births consciousness in motion? Is there a recognition that timelessness births time? Is there a recognition that the consciousness at rest is the Lord of time? Is there a recognition that consciousness in motion is time? Is there a recognition that the Lord of time births time, and hence the Lord of time would answer all queries about the reality of time? Let's give a name to the consciousness at rest, the Lord of time. Let's call him Yama. And let's give a name to consciousness in motion, to the time wave itself. Let's call it Nachiketa. Nachiketa is asking Yama, is there any existence after the end of time? It is like time asking timelessness, will I exist after the end? What is the meaning of the end of time? Time queries timelessness in Kathopanishad. Come, let's dive into Kathopanishad to understand the deep conversation between time and timelessness.